first of all, in the space and time continuum where we live in, so in the outside world, but also in the inside world, in our brain. It indexes where and when we have experienced something, and that's the index for the memory content. So what actually did we experience? How did it feel? But we need the time and space neurons, actually neurons for that, time and space neurons. For the space neurons, actually there was a Nobel Prize given, I think in 2014, for their detection. And 2016 there were the first papers on the time neurons, and they create kind of an index. And then the hippocampus will remember forever. And that we all know that if we want to try to remember what happened somewhere, sometime, it's always somewhere and sometime, and then the memory comes back. Because that's how we find essentially the memory traces and reconstruct what actually happened at the time. So we need these time and space neurons, and they are located in the hippocampus. And just for the viewers who don't know anything about the hippocampus has its name because it looks like a seahorse. We have two of them here. I always show it like this. They are like the size of a thumb. 1% of the brain mass of humans is the hippocampus. They are here in the temporal lobe, very deeply embedded under the neocortex, which is a later development in the evolution of the brain. And they are just kind of under it, and the neocortex is actually the what I call the neocortical hard disk, the hard drive, because every night the content of the information that the hippocampus has stored during the day is uploaded into the neocortical hard drive, and there it is stored, and only the time and space neurons have the access to it and allow us to retrieve the information. So every night when we sleep, the hippocampus essentially is restoring its memory capacity again by uploading the information of the day before. There's only one caveat. The time and space neurons remain. And if you age up to 100, the oldest woman was 122, actually without Alzheimer's, then you have to memorize things for 100 years. So you would run out of time and space neurons to index new memories. And that's why the hippocampus has another unique feature, but besides its ability to memorize things instantaneously and long term, it has the ability to grow new nerve cells on a daily basis. So it has the potential to grow. So with the wealth of personal experience in our diary, in our autobiographical memory, the hippocampus, this little seahorse, actually grows. It can grow 1%, 2%, or 3% every year. But the sad thing is that in our modern society, it doesn't grow, it shrinks. So in adults, the shrinkage rate is on average about 1.4%.
In our modern society, you're saying somehow there's been studies done that show in one set of circumstances it grows, but in the average, let's call it average modern society, it shrinks?
Absolutely. And in 2016, I published a paper which is called Unified Theory of Alzheimer's Disease. And in this paper, I show that if you keep up the growth, you will never get Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's is actually a result of the shrinking process. So neurogenesis, it's called adult hippocampal neurogenesis. So adult because it's neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons in the adult, which is unusual. It happens only in the hippocampus. This adult neurogenesis in the hippocampus, so the word is adult hippocampal neurogenesis, complicated, but it's important. Adult hippocampal neurogenesis essentially prevents Alzheimer's. And this is based on many functions of these neurons, because they are not only there to make an index, they have additional functions. And these additional functions are very important if we think about System 2 and System 1. So I have maybe to go into this for a few moments, but then the viewers will actually understand why they are so important. So they're important because these index neurons are created, new index neurons, which are not index neurons yet because they have not memorized anything when we wake up in the morning, but they are there. So they are fresh, maturing neurons. They are ripening, so to speak, and want to be mature neurons that have a function. But in order to do that, we actually have to learn something new. We have to make an experience. Otherwise, there would be no need for them.
Stimulate them in some way.
Yeah, we have to give them a job. Yeah, memorize X or Y. But if we don't give them a job, they actually die. They have an internal program of death. So there's a death program, it's called apoptosis. And so if cells, particularly nerve cells, are not needed, they kill themselves. It's suicide. So their survival instinct, so to speak, is we want to make memories. We want to make our job. So they are the neuronal correlate of human curiosity. If you have these cells, you are curious. If you don't have them, if they're not produced, your curiosity is down. But your curiosity is not everything. If you are curious, you enter a new space. You enter a new, you ask questions that might be, you might not like the answers. So everything that is new is per se has the risk of being dangerous in some way or other.
Sure.
So in order to still follow your curiosity, you have to have a high level of psychological resilience. And these cells provide the resilience. They're actually dictating how high your stress level is if you experience something new. And all antidepressives that are out there do nothing else but activating the production of these new nerve cells. So if you, in an animal experiment, for example, you stop the production of these nerve cells, all antidepressives that are out there would stop their function. They're not working anymore. So it's key that you activate neurogenesis in the hippocampus to increase your resilience and to get out of depression.
But you're telling me that these are getting smaller, and so this is, of course, reflected in the increased levels of depression and Alzheimer's and, and so forth.
Absolutely. Yeah. One important function of thinking, System 2 thinking, is that our frontal brain, which contains what we call the working memory, the working memory is only currents in your brain. It doesn't fix any thought. So if you think about thinking, and you want to change your lifestyle, or you want to really go deep into a problem that might affect many people, it becomes quickly very complicated, the different alternatives that you have to consider. So it becomes quickly complicated. Now our frontal brain, the working memory, can only keep 4 or 5, maybe 6 items parallel in action, so to speak, or in your working memory. Actually, the number of items reflect your IQ. It's very important, actually, when we come to that later. So your intelligence is essentially reflected by the number of items you can keep simultaneously active in your working memory. But it's only 4 or 5, and a complicated thought might require 10, 15, maybe hundreds of intermediate thoughts that need to be stored. And only the hippocampus can do that. So when we talk about the mental energy that is required for System 2, we talk actually about the storage capability of the hippocampus. And if you are running out of new neurons that become time and space neurons for these intermediate thoughts, then your battery is empty. You have no memory capacity anymore. At least not really. You still can. And I'll come to that when we come to the process of indoctrination. You can still overwrite, but this is a different story. But having no index neurons left means you are what we call scientifically ego depleted. So you are exhausted. And we all know that if after half a day or almost a whole day of social activities, narratives you have learned, discussions you have had, or just thinking on your desk, fills up all these index neurons that were available from the night before. And then, of course, there are none left. And when a new thought comes in, well, what do you do with it? There's no storage capacity, and you rather stay back and say, tomorrow, let's sleep, I do it tomorrow. That's the cause of ego depletion, which happens during the day. But of course, if you wake up in the morning, you have no new nerve cells produced. If adult hippocampal neurogenesis is not working, then you are starting the day ego depleted. And you are not able to activate System 2, and you're in a permanent state of System 1. You are essentially permanent in the zombie mode.